And we are live, everybody. Welcome to the WWE TLC 2020 post show. What's going on, John?
What is going on? I am excited to talk about this show with you, Way. If ever there was a month that we got off, that we mistimed, it was which pay-per-view WH Park was going to review.
Well, I'm sure we can still get his thoughts. I, I have to just really picture how he would be watching this show.
Well, we'll get into all of it. We are going to be going through the entire TLC pay-per-view tonight. A very interesting show. A very interesting show for I would say 2 hours and 40 minutes, and then 20 minutes followed it. We'll try and make sense of all of that. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay, John. Yeah, it was. I don't know how I really feel at the end of it all, but it was definitely a different type of experience. Definitely an interesting experience, is what I can say.
Murder? Murder is an interesting experience.
I
Yes.
would call it interesting, yeah.
At the bare minimum, attempted murder. I don't know. I wonder if, thankfully, I think Randy Orton, maybe he will get some advice from Larry D in Impact, and he'll know that, hey, I can get out of any murder rap by winning a future pro wrestling match.
Well, I don't really think this constitutes murder because the rules of the match that they both signed on for, I mean, essentially, is a murder match. Person must be lit on fire in order to lose. So, I don't think Randy will be legally charged with anything.
You definitely have to get this was one that required this one should have had a contract signing. We really should have known what was the fine print in this Inferno match. Is it just simply light a body part on fire? Is it just is gasoline that is that an illegal advantage that is going to promote the flames to that much? Like it's a cheating mechanism using gasoline in an Inferno match. Like the flames are provided, the gasoline is that on the up and up.
Well, here's the thing: we didn't even know this was going to be an Inferno match until after Monday.
That's right. That's right. Because Bray died 6 days ago and then came back for this one.
But
He's having
forgive.
he's having a rough December.
Yeah, well, 2020 has been rough for a lot of people. But yeah, this was interesting for a gimmick that I think they obviously clearly ended the show on, and I think the one thing we'll probably come out of the show talking about the most, it was not decided or at least promoted at the end of the go home show on Monday.
No, they didn't announce the Inferno match till afterwards, and yeah, went ahead. I guess there was no following this tonight. Very tough. There was no way Samoa Joe was going to be able to transition after this.
Well, just by the visual aspect of it, I don't know how you can continue the show with all that gasoline and burnt flesh everywhere.
Yeah, that would be tough. I don't
Yeah.
know if like a Royal Rumble spot in between could get people's minds off of what they had just seen. And well, folks, show must go on. And Kevin Owens is going to try and do this one in honor of Bray Wyatt.
No, it's hard to compete with fire, and
Because
you
the
know,
last thing you would want is something unrealistic. Like you can't just go with a wrestling match after that. Like this is serious business here. You close the show with the man lit on fire.
as is tradition.
Well, lots to tackle here going into Sunday's show, and afterwards we'll be opening up the phone lines if anyone wants to chime in, share their thoughts on TLC or the week ahead. We've got Raw on Monday night, and then SmackDown on Friday, which we talked about the fact that AEW is getting that and the NBA lead in on Wednesday. There is a Saints Vikings game Friday at 4:30 on Fox, which the way it times out will likely result in SmackDown getting a significant lead in on Christmas Day. And based on the announcement tonight, I think it's safe to say this is not going to be a throwaway show on Friday, and nor should it, given the fact they will have a lot of eyes on them. They are taping this on Tuesday, so and going ahead with the Sami Zayn Big E Intercontinental title match.
Yeah, significant main event, I would say, or at least by SmackDown standards, something that's been built to for several weeks. Maybe we could expect a title change even.
Possibly. Well, the kickoff show featured Charlie Caruso, Booker T, Peter Rosenberg, and Jeff Jarrett. I got through this pre-show up until the match in about 3 minutes.
Not much to this entire pre-show at all, honestly. All these segments prior to the match itself were pretty meaningless and just kind of filler.
An MVP promo. Miz and Morrison came by the desk to tease the cash in, and R-Truth did his monthly appearance with the panel trying to speak Japanese.
Pretty much it. Yep.
Late in the day, they added an 8-man tag, just an assortment of guys from the SmackDown roster. For the kickoff show, we had Sami Zayn, King Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Cesaro against Daniel Bryan, Big E, Chad Gable, and Otis. Quite a lot of talent condensed to this throwaway 8-man tag on the show. Although I will say there was a purpose with the finish of this match.
I think you want to feature some of these guys too because they, didn't really have much of a chance to have matches on their own for the rest of this show. So why not just throw them in there? And in the case of both Big E and Zayn and also Gable and Otis, I would say, reasons for them to be there for storyline purpose.
The heel side, they took turns working over Daniel Bryan with everyone tagging in with him. Bryan eventually stopped Corbin's attack with a headbutt off the turnbuckle, made the tag to Otis. Otis hit Nakamura with the Caterpillar, but then Gable wanted the tag, and he made it. Nakamura then stopped their double team attempt and nearly pinned Gable until Otis saved. And then we saw Gable hit Cesaro with the Chaos Project, the Chaos Theory, and Zayn then demanded the tag. Zayn took the prone Gable, who rolled away, tagging in Big E, who stopped the haluva kick with the Uranagi, followed up by the big ending. So Big E pins the Intercontinental Champion. That logically leads to Friday's title match, 8 minutes, 45 seconds.
Yeah, they also played a clip of Sami Zayn's leaked audio from his Tom Cruise parody.
I thought this was pretty funny.
It was great.
Very timely and, yes, very clever for this Sami Zayn character that it works perfectly for. I thought it was like a really funny idea when I first read about it.
It was awesome. Yelling at the stagehand who allowed Big E to switch that the envelope at the Sammy Awards. Sadly, the suit was gone, but the hairstyle is still somewhat there. I thought it was a fun little opening match. It kind of felt like an opening New Japan 8-man tag with, basically a lot of little stories told between some of the participants there. Totally suitable for a kickoff, I thought.
Yeah, I would love to see Chad Gable in a New Japan 8-man tag.
Yeah, sure. Or Otis.
Otis, maybe, but Chad Gable, I mean, he did get about 30 seconds in here with Cesaro, which was fun.
He did, yes.
On to the main show we go. I'm going to say this, okay? This might be the only positive thing I say about this program tonight, but they did do a video package for Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton called the Firefly Carol. And say whatever you want about how ridiculous this program is. This video is great. It was spliced with Silent Night. This is just like a really tremendously done video, I thought.
It was well done, yeah, as all the videos are. But this one in particular, I think, a bit more creative.
This one stood out. A nice theme, used like a Silent Night in this. Like, it was like a really, like, even by WWE standards, like, this one stood out.
I think this would have been great on Raw. It tells me, like, maybe there was just a level of foresight that might have been missing with, like, some of the last-minute additions to this particular feud. But, yeah, it was one of the better ones.
Just Wednesday, someone wakes up. You know what? We're going to barbecue this guy on Sunday. Okay. How do we get there? Torch him. Sure. We'll send out a tweet. So that ends the kickoff, and on to the show we go. As expected, they were going to start off the show with one TLC match, but they would not be bookending the show because there was only one thing that was going to close the show. Opening it up is Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles for the Universal Championship. And this was kind of strange. At the beginning, it is Drew dominating AJ, showing no ill effects of that beatdown that closed Raw on Monday night. And he's warning Omos. He hints at the Claymore. It is 5 minutes of destruction by the champion until he starts climbing the ladder and AJ uses a chair on the left leg. And thus Drew now starts selling the injury that they had started on Monday. So they had like very good chemistry between these two. AJ just bumped all over the place for this. Drew stopped a Styles clash at one point, hitting the future shock, and would continually go back to the left knee. And while we were going to get more of the kind of stunt show in the next TLC match with like your big kind of jaw-dropping spots, this was more methodical use of the weapons by AJ, like wrapping the knee through the ladder, through the chair, into the calf crusher, and just coming up with unique ways to use the weapons that are kind of just these objects that just happen to be in the ring as they're having this match. Whereas it was much more the focus of the other TLC match would be the violence of it all. There was a phenomenal forearm off a table that Drew caught and sent him with a belly to belly. And later in the match, The Miz runs down and he stops Drew, who's on the ladder, and Morrison is distracting with the briefcase. Drew gets sent through a table and The Miz cashes in his briefcase, making this a triple threat match. He goes to climb the ladder. He's going slow as can be, thinking he's got this in the bag, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, because in walks the big man who grabs Miz, dumps him through a table on the floor, and then in a spot that was like right out of the late Zeus, John Morrison slams a chair to the back of Omos. Not only does this dude not sell the chair shot, the chair breaks over this guy's back, and he just like walks down Morrison, who comedically backpedals like he's auditioning for your high school horror film, to the back, and they're gone. Drew and AJ climb. Miz sets up a ladder. Drew knocks both down. AJ does a springboard back onto the ladder, knocking Drew down. Miz fights AJ on the ladder as Drew returns, tipping both men over. AJ is dumped to the floor. A Claymore is hit to Miz, and Drew climbs up, grabbing the title in 27 minutes.
I enjoyed the match overall. Honestly, though, maybe a little too slow for my taste until we had The Miz come in to cash in to make things a bit more interesting and urgent. It was certainly not a TLC with non-stop spots, as you mentioned. That was more so the semi-main event. But I thought they told a really good story with Drew's knee injury throughout it. I liked the creative use of a lot of the weapons here as a part of submission matches. But to me, it was the last 2 to 3 minutes that were what really made this match stand out. When all three of them were fighting up top on top of the ladders, the great sense of urgency and just the constant, this guy falls off the ladder, so you think he's out of it, but then here's AJ springboarding back in, as Drew falls out, and then it's him and Miz. It's just like the constant back and forth, making you I thought was done really well. And then the finish of Drew actually climbing up the ladder on one knee, I thought was really smart and really well done as well. So a really good finish. Overall, like not a great TLC in my opinion, but I mean, I can understand why it had to be different from the other one.
I think it depends what you want out of these TLC matches. If you're looking for all like a lot of what you got in the later one, this one was differentiated from that. I liked it. To me, it even at 27 minutes, it didn't drag. I thought AJ was fantastic in this match. Miz really didn't do a whole lot for me. I guess like I didn't sense like any believability that this guy was stealing the title. But you at least, I mean, you cashed it in. So unless he's going to do some ploy to get this briefcase back through some whatever means, it just feels like they really had no idea of what to do with this briefcase and got nothing out of it, in my opinion, this year.
No, not this year. They didn't have somebody clear from the get-go. I think whatever they had planned with Otis obviously didn't really come to fruition once they realized that, hey, we might actually have to put the belt on this guy. And rather than move it to somebody else who could use it, I think they probably just want to keep the belts on Roman and Drew as the champions this year. And there's really no one to even threaten that they want to have fail other than somebody who can kind of afford a failure like that, like The Miz. So we probably just have to look towards, the next cycle of Money in the Bank pay-per-views. What is that? Which is what, April that they do it in?
May.
April, May
last year.
Yeah, so I mean, might as well use the gimmick up to accentuate a match like this with a surprise finish, and wait till then.
I can't remember who it was that suggested it. It might have been Nate. The idea way back at Money in the Bank of having Big E win the briefcase, and you have the idea of, is he going to cash it in when he's still connected to the New Day, and having that briefcase and just kind of keeping it like, what's Big E going to do with this briefcase? That could be your reason for the breakup at the draft, is that one show wants Big E, but not the others. They want the briefcase and the attention that that brings to their show every week. And that you'd see this slow development of Big E from tag wrestler that thinks New Day is the number one priority, to suddenly he goes down the singles path, and he's got the ultimate key throughout this whole maturation process as a singles performer. And you could throw out any idea. It's better than what happened here with The Miz.
And I think it would be better than what they ultimately did with Big E. I don't know if there was any level of foresight, attached to a singles run up until that point.
Like that would have been that would have been our reason for the draft, for one of them to pick Big E, but not the others. And it forces Big E to be at this crossroads. And now he's got this briefcase, and it's time, time is ticking down, and you've got to do something with it. And it could have culminated in something. Just the briefcase, it's a concept that works, and it's something people take seriously. And this year it just felt like it was a throwaway with no solid idea behind it, from Otis to The Miz. So that was the only disappointing part here, but I like this match. I thought it was a really good start to the show, and Drew retains. Paul Heyman was interviewed by Kayla Braxton. He says he enjoys NASCAR for the car crashes, but he doesn't need NASCAR tonight because people are going to get hurt in the TLC match, and Owens will get hurt. Reigns will retain. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Man didn't lie. Sasha Banks and Carmella for the Smackdown Women's Championship. And we've got the returning sommelier, who is no longer Tommy. He's now Reginald.
Yeah, wow. Changing the names of the sommeliers even.
Yes. This didn't require its own story on our website, but this was huge news. Reginald for this moment forward. Reginald caught Carmella on the floor early on, and then Banks was sent into the steps. Where this match got going was Carmella countered out of a tilt-a-whirl and hit this big X Factor, driving Banks head into the mat. And then after hitting a super kick, Banks was draped on the apron, and Banks just grabbed onto the bottom rope, and they were starting to get into covers. Carmella kicked out of a jackknife cover into the Code of Silence. That was countered with the Bank statement, and Carmella got out of that with a Koji clutch with the arms hyperextended, like the Rings of Saturn that Banks was able to get out of. So doing a lot of submission transitions here. Banks got the Bank statement applied when Reginald pulled Carmella out of the ring. The referee saw none of this. Banks then hit him with a Meteora, but Carmella was there to hit a super kick. That led to another big near fall. She went for one more X Factor, which got countered to the Bank statement, and Carmella tapped out at 12 minutes and 42 seconds.
I thought this match was great. Far exceeded my expectations. I thought there were a lot of very ambitious near fall sequences that I think all clicked for me. Some really well executed counters as well. The last half of this match I thought was really fast and exciting. Among the best, if not the best Carmella match I might be, thinking about. It's hard for me to recall a singles Carmella match that I might have enjoyed as much as this.
She's had the odd performance where it's there is she has this in her, and that's why I said on Friday, I was not going to be surprised if this one over delivered for people. I thought it was a very good match. I wouldn't go to the level of great, but I thought it was very good. And I think this was certainly among Carmella's best matches. And yeah, I thought that they laid out a really intricate match with all the submissions, and they showcased a lot in this one. I thought it was definitely over-delivered for most.
I liked it more than AJ versus Drew.
Okay, well, I wouldn't go that far, but it was good. I liked the match. So Charlie interviewed the New Day as they are preparing in the back, and tonight you're going to see Big Match New Day. So Big Match New Day. took on Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. They noted that Shelton Benjamin has not held a tag title here in WWE in 17 years. Why don't they just call this guy Grandpa? Like this just really ages the man. Who doesn't look it? 17 years since he won a tag title.
Okay. I mean, it's not that crazy of a stat, you know. He's won other belts since that time, and he wasn't in the company for like 10 of those years.
How many people on that 2003 roster are on today's roster?
Probably like 2 or 3.
It was just constant offense from the New Day as they're going for constant covers on the Hurt Business. Benjamin caught Woods, drilled him into the bottom turnbuckle, and eventually Kingston got the tag. The boom drop was stopped in midair when Benjamin caught him. And Kingston had this great sequence where he went almost for like a victory roll for Shelton Benjamin, very Steiner Brothers head shrinkers similarity here. And Alexander just leaped off the top, missing the target when Kingston rolled through. Alexander then hit this big flying knee and a brainbuster on Kingston that Woods broke up. And then Woods got hit with the neuralizer and pay dirt. Benjamin then he went back 17 years to Kurt Angle in 2003. He scaled to the top. He's doing like the crazy jumping up and down that Kurt would do when he was sizing him up for the Angle Slam. And then suplexes Kingston off, and Alexander blind tags in as Benjamin's getting ready here for this ending sequence. And Alexander just hits the lumbar check, pinning Kofi, and steals all the glory. But they win the tag titles in 9 minutes and 53 seconds. So Benjamin begrudgingly accepts this win, even though he was on the verge of winning it for the team.
Really good sprint from both of these teams. You know, really fast paced from the start. Everything looking really good from these 4. I'm glad it resulted in a good match, and I like the Hurt Business here at the end holding 3 championships. Actually, 4 championships if you include MVP's IBJJF World Masters medal that he held up in this photo that they all tweeted out. So love to see the IBJJF get some love here on the
can't discount that. I mean,
on the equal status with the WWE championships. But I hope these 2 teams never, ever wrestle one another again.
Oh, this outcome ensures that that exact thing is going to happen.
Abandon ship, because I'm so sick of this feud. This was a great match, and I expected this to be a great match, but my interest going into it was completely negative. You even had Woods here at the beginning here kind of justify. I think like they're well aware of how abused this feud has been. Where Woods was like, yeah, we faced these guys before many times, but now you're facing big match New Day, so it's going to be different. Granted, my interest level, though, was not a big match level of interest, so I hope they keep these teams far, far away from one another.
In a vacuum, like the byproduct of all these matches that they've done to death is that their chemistry's on point. Like they've got this match down, but you're right. It's Groundhog Day with this program, and it's not a deep tag division on either show. So we're just going to get
no
Profits
excuse
against Ziggler and Rude, and these 4, it's just going to be constant, like repeats.
Oh God, if there's not enough teams to have more than one match, then don't have a fucking division. Don't have a tag team championship.
One set of titles. I'm all for it. They do it with the women. Why can't we do it with the men? They don't have 2 tag divisions. They have at best 1.
You can make you have plenty of guys. You have plenty of guys that you can put together. Like that's what they do for the women. Just create makeshift tag teams. There are plenty of people on that roster not doing anything that you could create a fresh set of matchups for. Please, no more of this.
Does it happen on Raw tomorrow night?
Maybe one more time.
Then they ran an ad for the Royal Rumble Sunday, January 31st. So we've got quite a bit of a stretch before the Royal Rumble, and they're avoiding running the prior weekend, which is the Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fight, which I don't know if that's a big deal now in the network era, but I think having a week apart is probably a good thing
for the news cycle, perhaps. Yeah, but I mean, it would be Saturday versus Sunday, so I don't know how much that would collide.
I'm looking completely selfishly at what that weekend would have been for me if it was both of those. So I like the fact that we are separating those by a week. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler come out for the women's tag title match, and Asuka is out, and her partner is Charlotte Flair, which was reported earlier in the day by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And, we talked about this on Friday. I was not crazy about this being the return for Charlotte Flair, unadvertised in this role, but I'm going to say, like, she was great in this match, and this match was infinitely better because of her involvement. So I can only complain so much, but I just thought her return should have been a much bigger deal than just unannounced, shows up and boom, she's back.
I don't know how much of a difference maker like Charlotte would make to, a Raw rating or anything like that. So I don't have as much of an issue from that standpoint. I do have an issue with maybe the way the story is kind of playing out. You spend an entire month building up this Lana Nia thing. I don't exactly know what's going on with Lana. Maybe they're, they have a justifiable reason to take her out. But if you look at this whole thing as a story as a whole, and maybe this isn't the end yet, maybe Lana will still continue to get involved somehow afterwards, but just judging by, tonight, if this was the culmination of the story, it certainly feels disjointed.
What was also disjointed is that they're all talking about Charlotte's been gone for all this time. I believe there was even a point where she did point at Nia, but the announcers never explained that it was Nia that injured her back in June. Like, she was the storyline reason of, she was the one that attacked Charlotte to take her out. And that was like never brought up here. Like, why is she here if we're not going to explain the story? Like, it was, if you were just watching this and don't remember that, and I imagine there were people that don't remember that angle from 6 months ago.
I don't remember. I didn't remember it until you brought it up.
That was the whole reason she was like taken out. She did the match with Asuka, and then backstage, Asuka destroyed her shoulder, which was injured in the match. And that's her whole reason for being in this match, like storyline wise, is to gain revenge on Nia. And it was never brought up. So it just, because it's like, if you're not remembering that and the announcers are not putting any kind of a focus on it, it's that much more random why Charlotte's even here. So story wise, I just thought that, I mean, you did this whole angle, like, this is the payoff to it, is explaining, she's going for revenge here.
Maybe she'll announce it in retrospect.
Well, we'll see. Asuka and Baszler did a brief grappling display at the beginning, and then Flair was tagged in. Flair looks just like in fantastic shape, and I mean, zero rust, I thought, during this match. I thought she looked great.
Agreed.
Asuka had ran her shoulder into the post, and then Baszler stomped the elbow, so they got the heat on her for a while, attacking the arm. Essential personnel, Ric Flair, was watching backstage. And then Flair climbed to the top, did a moonsault to Jax and Baszler on the floor. And then there was a Samoan drop after Asuka did a blind tag, and she hit Nia with a missile drop kick. Baszler goes for the Kirifuda clutch. Flair tags in, boots Jax off the apron, and then kicks out of a cradle, gets the figure eight applied. Nia breaks it up, saving her partner. Asuka takes out Jax with a hip attack to the floor, and then Flair rolls through on the Kirifuda clutch attempt, gets on top for a 2, and then hits the natural selection. They win the tag titles in 10 minutes.
I thought this was a great match. Charlotte looked excellent, very aggressive, very precise, really strong in-ring presence. I really didn't realize how much she's been missed, at least from an in-ring standpoint. I think she'll really take the quality of the in-ring product on Raw, at least in the women's division, up that much higher. She looked great.
If you could just find some teams, like, granted, they'll do probably ad nauseum rematches here, and you have some others, but I like Asuka and Flair. If they held the titles for even like 2 months, they could have some great matches that really do put these tag titles in a bit of a spotlight role. It's the same never-ending story of this division. It's just the lack of teams that they have, and it just becomes, well, we'll find challengers and then we'll do every combination conceivable. But Asuka and Flair doing tag matches, like, they could have like a nice little run with these tag belts.
I suppose so. I mean, I kind of wish that the tag belts were on an actual tag team rather than, these makeshift tag teams continuing to be put together. And I understand why, because you don't have any other teams, but you have, at least on the SmackDown side of things, you have the Riot Squad that's ready for it. I don't know how they're going to kind of figure into this with Asuka and Charlotte being a babyface pair tag team champions. The reason why they broke up the Iconics, I still have zero clue, especially when you're in need of tag teams right now. And not to mention, Asuka is still the Raw Women's Champion. You have that belt. not being used when she's
Which
holding two concurrent belts.
I mean, this should be like ultimately that's where these two. I mean, you have them as
That's
the
fine,
team.
John, but I'm just sick of the tag titles being used as a device to get to your singles match, as they've done the entire year, as they've done really for the entire existence of these tag team titles.
Well, I mean, what was your alternative? Beating Charlotte here in this match?
No, not to have Asuka and Charlotte be the ones to even face Nia and Shayna.
Well, again, that goes to like I wouldn't have brought Charlotte back like this. I think that it's whatever their plan is. I don't know. Lana's just kind of in no man's land at this point, but we'll see what they do tomorrow. And Lana had like no presence on the show at all, was barely even mentioned. Biggie and R-Truth are in the back, and Sami Zayn accuses them of leaking the audio after the Sammy Awards. Truth said that your lips don't touch when you say the word touch, but they do when you say separate. Zayn informed Biggie that he's been treading water ever since he went solo, and Biggie said that he's going to see Zayn really soon. And really soon means Tuesday's tapings.
Yes, SmackDown is taped this week.
Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, TLC match for the Universal Championship. This was everyone's realization that the Inferno is going to be last. Roman Reigns comes out first, and he's watching his own Ascension ceremony when Kevin Owens jumps him and started this off at a pretty fast pace, destroying Reigns with a cannonball in the ring and another on the floor. And then we got into Kevin Owens, who had to essentially just play the outnumbered underdog. Jey Uso constantly got involved in this match, and it was Kevin Owens essentially who kept repeating that you're gonna have to kill me to win this match. And I thought Owens played like a fantastic babyface in this. Like, you were legitimately rooting for this guy to overcome, and it was like, how far can we tease people that Owens might actually pull this off? Even though the notion of Owens winning was probably completely just thrown out the window by most going into this. But what did you think about the actual, like, the story of this match? And was there too much Jey Uso, or did it enhance it for you?
It enhanced it. I thought it was really well told. I mean, it continued the story that they were telling on Friday, with Owens being this guy who's able to withstand a great deal of punishment. As we said, the passion of Kevin Owens, a babyface who never gives up. And I would say in this match, they probably couldn't have done a better job of telling that never give up story for him.
Like, for all the stuff about, like, this was a match that was laid out for Kevin Owens to look like the ultimate babyface. Very like Mick Foley-esque. Like, can he actually pull it off? And he was going to go through ungodly punishment to try and win this championship. So at one point he gets rid of Jey, but his attention is diverted and he turns around into a drive-by. And this is where Reigns is able to take over and just starts attacking Owens with the ladder. He dumped Owens a pair of times onto the ladder, one which was sideways, which just looked brutal for the guy to take. Jey would continue to pop up. This was after Owens eventually took out his ankle and snapped the ankle with the chair around it. Owens then he put Jey through the desk with a pop-up power bomb and buried him underneath. Then they fought on the ladder. Reigns goes to the eyes of Owens, and this is where Owens gets dumped onto the ladder back first. He also gets put through a table on the floor with a choke slam, and then another with a Samoan drop. Reigns is just laughing at this guy. Owens won't give up, though. He slaps Reigns, who spears him through a table in the floor. And then the big opening for Owens. He's on the floor. Reigns goes to spear him through the barricade, and Owens moves at the last second. So Reigns crashes through. Owens makes it to the ladder. He's climbing up, but again, Jey Uso returns, and Owens fights him off, hits him with a stunner, goes again to climb, and he's right there at the top when Reigns is alive. And he hits Owens with a low blow, applies the guillotine, putting Owens out, and he just succumbs and falls to the floor, allowing Reigns to grab the belt at 24 minutes and 44 seconds. I thought everyone performed well, but the star of this match was Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I thought everybody did really well, but yes, a fantastic babyface performance from Owens. This was definitely his biggest opportunity since the pandemic started, and here he was given, what we thought was a main. I think in reality, you can consider this a main event role because like the
Sure.
Fiend Orton match was never promoted as such. I would say leading up to this. This is a match type that Kevin Owens is perfectly suited for, and he absolutely did not disappoint. Whereas the first TLC match that we saw tonight was more of a match, regular match with some weapons involved. I thought this lived up to the intensity and the violence expected of a TLC match, with Owens, being one of those people who's willing to take a great deal of that punishment. Another fantastic heel performance from Roman Reigns. I think this one for him relying a lot less on that in-ring acting we saw from his previous matches with Jey Uso, and instead relying a lot more on his physicality. Since this new character change, like I've really enjoyed all of his matches. I find them so much more captivating and enjoyable, and it just tells you how important character and story are to the entire package of a pro wrestler. He's always been a very good wrestler, but when you mix a hot character into this, the matches to me are just that much better. So I really enjoyed this match.
So not surprisingly, the Chronicle on Kevin Owens was really strong stuff. I thought it was one of my favorite versions of like any of their series they've done. And Owens was talking about the fact that, he can see that, Reigns is doing tremendous. He thinks he's matching him with his own performances, and that he feels like they've got a lot left in this program beyond TLC. And, watching this match, I felt like 100%, like this program, whether it was just designed to be a 4-week thing from Survivor Series to TLC and then Reigns is on to the next thing. I thought like there is a lot in Kevin Owens as a babyface. Like you look at Jon Moxley in AEW, and I think a lot of the same qualities are there in Kevin Owens. But did you certainly the end of this, like he's outnumbered, there's ways you could get back to something like this. Did you take this as this is probably the end of Kevin Owens in this role, or do you think that you could get something extra out of this program with Kevin Owens? Because I just thought he was so fantastic in this match, but I just don't know where you go next with him.
I definitely think you could build to another match. I mean, one of the unfortunate things about this was that this was a TLC match, which, would have been great as a feud ending type of match with this level of brutality. But I think, with the amount of TV shows that they have coming up leading up to Rumble, there are certainly opportunities for you to have another big TV match ahead of it. Completely agree with Kevin Owens that there's a lot more story to be told. I don't know if they just like maybe it's this Roman Reigns character that's just like created such a creative spark for so many other people, so many of his other opponents, but like you can tell long form stories with pretty much like any of the opponents that he's had so far. With Jey Uso, somebody who was, I don't even know if they were really supposed to get 1 month out of them. They end up getting 2. You could even do that long term for even longer if you wanted to. And with Kevin Owens, it's the same situation. 1 month feels like it's too short for this level of storytelling, and a performer on the level of a Kevin Owens. So I would take this further. And then you look at up and down this like SmackDown roster. There's like plenty of guys to get multiple month stories out of Roman Reigns. You have a Rey Mysterio, you have a Daniel Bryan, so he's more than covered up until WrestleMania. But it just depends on like what their plans are for him at WrestleMania, because heading into Rumble, heading into Mania, they probably have like other plans already set for Roman. But the opportunity for at least another TV match is certainly there for Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I really hope that this is a significant breakthrough for Kevin Owens, who has kind of just been in that utility role. I thought he hit it out of the park in this program, and the high point was tonight. I just thought he was tremendous in this match. So this was my match of the show.
It was my match of the show as well. That Chronicle kind of hit on like far more of this family aspect to Kevin Owens that they've maybe briefly mentioned in the actual story, but they never really kind of like showed you as much as that Chronicle did. And that to me is like where you can really go with the storyline next, those are the themes attached to this whole program. It's like the idea of one guy proclaiming himself to be a leader and a family man, and another guy in Kevin Owens who, is truly demonstrating that he is doing all this for his family. So there's a lot more that you can tell, and I would say they barely scratch the surface on TV.
So that was the TLC pay-per-view. I've got to say, I thought like this is a thumbs up show. Oh,
Well,
wait a minute. I have more notes. They announced Zayn and Big E for Friday on Christmas, and the main event, the Firefly Inferno match between Randy Orton and the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. So the way they had set this up, the announcers were repositioned, so they were not even visible on camera. They had just gone into the ether to call this one.
and I mean, just seeing the way the match was laid out, this was very likely pre-taped.
Well, Randy might have made history tonight because I think this is the first time the man has competed in pants.
Is that so? Wow.
I cannot recall a time.
He must have had a street fight or something with pants at some point.
Dude, that guy, he's going to be buried in those trunks one day. So Orton is out auditioning for Retribution in his pants and hoodie, while the Fiend was in his jacket with his pants. So a lot of coverage here. And it's just starting out as a normal match. There's no flames anywhere. There's no fire.
Very different from, the Inferno matches we've seen in the past, where it's not just the, pyrotechnics surrounding the apron, but the fire was actually, because this was in the Thunderdome without a real crowd, the flames and the pyro were actually outside, beyond the barricade, in the audience itself.
Yes. We had vertical flames. We had horizontal displays. It took.
I liked it. I mean, it allowed them to actually have a match rather than just like working within, like this little tiny space, like in an old style Inferno match. And then you get to the fire stuff later on.
It took the Fiend 3 times before he hit Sister Abigail, and this is where he summoned the flames as they appeared. The Fiend whipped Orton with a leather strap and then lit it on fire, but missed Orton. Then we introduced the gasoline, and if I live to be 100, I will remember this moment and just always have a cackle. He pours gasoline on the rocking chair and then pours it down the mat leading away from the chair. Orton is seated in the chair, and Wyatt proceeds to start his lighter and lights the flame that goes towards Orton, who at the last second has to dive off of the chair. One of my favorite moments this year in a wrestling content.
This was awesome.
Was watching Randy dive off this chair. This was when I was like, this is silly as hell. So I'm just gonna enjoy this for the silliness that it's gonna provide.
Yeah.
Orton fought back with a chain, nearly set the man on fire. Orton then hit a draping DDT to the floor. He attempted the RKO and was caught with the mandible claw. So while he's in the mandible claw, he turns Bray's back towards the flames, and Bray is on fire. And while he's on fire, he runs into the ring and into an RKO.
This visual was incredible. Like, we've seen plenty of RKOs. We've seen one incredibly, like, beautifully executed physical gymnastic-like RKOs. We've never seen Randy Orton RKO a man who was lit on fire, and now they've got that. So add this to your highlight reel. This was pretty great.
You know what I'd be playing underneath that highlight video?
What's that?
Arcade Fire.
Excellent.
So Bray might have already been dead from the RKO. This was a vicious RKO. He's just lifeless.
But the match should be over by this point.
He was lit on fire. It should have been over. There was no bell. So Orton, I guess, thinking I haven't done enough, poured gasoline over Bray Wyatt. And I will imagine that 95% of the people were just focused on the absurdity of what was happening here. Do yourself a favor. Watch the final 3 minutes, but don't even watch it. Listen to Samoa Joe, because he was the best. He was my favorite part of this atrocity. Just the concern. It was like no one smartened Joe up that this was a man dying, and he was going to call it as though he was watching a snuff film and had to provide commentary for it. Randy lights the match. Joe's, blow it out, don't do it. And then Randy teases that the light is going to go out, but no, he drops it, and Bray get the marshmallows out, he just goes up in flames. He was the third hour of Raw in visual form. Dead. And that was it. That was the end of TLC. Tables, ladders, chairs, and flames.
I love this shit.
I know you did. I know
This match was fucking crazy. And it was like, I've seen plenty of Inferno matches, and they're almost always underwhelming. Like the ones I remember were like, yeah, it's kind of a neat visual having like wrestlers surround the ring, but because they can't wrestle without touching the fire, it results in some bad wrestling. And then when somebody does catch on fire, it's like a fucking boot. Like, oh, Kane's boot was lit on fire. Oh my God. Like, that's all. We got a man actually burnt on fire. Listen, like, this is not traditional wrestling at this point. You're talking about more just kind of, I don't know, campy fun. And that to me is exactly what I like about The Fiend. Yeah, often it kind of goes off the rails, and it's like it ceases to be maybe even enjoyable, but this was not one of those. This to me was like The Fiend at his best, taking full advantage of this cinematic, pre-taped thing, taking full advantage of the environment without a real crowd there, allowing them to play plenty of kind of camera tricks with fire. Overall, it was just like an exciting, interesting, fun match that just made you have fun by the end.
Well, it was absurd. That's the best thing I can say about it. I mean, it's not. I don't know. I feel this is a lot for me. Like the Rollins Bray Wyatt thing. It's like you can do anything you want with this Bray Wyatt character. I don't think it like turns people off. I don't think it gets them invested. It's just we can do anything we want with this character.
It still has to be within like taste. It still has to be like entertaining by the end. That to me is the bare requirement. Okay, for me, like this match existed very much on the same level as like a Seth Rollins Rey Mysterio eye match. Like that shit was completely crazy too. But by the end of it was like, this is fun. Like I saw a man get his eye taken out. I saw like, like this kind of like jelly donut squirt out of like Rey Mysterio's eye. Like this was, I kind of enjoyed the WWE fully embracing just like, horror movies, like, like camp and injecting that into some of their wrestling like this. Obviously, this is not real. Yeah, nobody is trying to, trick you into thinking that this is real. But it was just
no. Samoa Joe is absolutely tricking you to believe this was real.
I suppose so, but
there was no wink at all.
I can absolutely enjoy this the same way, somebody might be able to enjoy like the Toxic Avenger or something. And I think there's room for it in pro wrestling, especially, this sort of a pandemic era pro wrestling.
I don't enjoy this stuff as much, but a serious question. Would this be better suited on Raw than a pay-per-view?
No, because I think
this would be a total, like, it would be a literal dumpster fire, but it would be absolutely something people would watch.
But then, I mean, I think where they fumbled is not promoting this. I don't know why, like, I don't know. I don't know what really kind of went into the promotion of it, but I think an Inferno match itself, especially, I think it's still an attraction. I think the Fiend being, wrestling in a big match is still an attraction, and I think it's something you save for a pay-per-view. I mean, you can promote it on a TV match if you wanted to, but I think this was like, a big enough thing that they should probably save for pay-per-view.
So that was TLC. I thought like a really good show up until the final 20 minutes. I enjoyed both TLC match. Like really, there was not a bad match. I don't think the Inferno really counts as a match, but the rest, I really enjoyed.
It was a cinematic match.
Really. Sure. I really enjoyed Owens and Reigns. I thought that was my match of the show, and I would say up till that point, I would go thumbs up on this show.
I go thumbs up too. I mean, something that I think has been pretty apparent to me this year is that if you're sick of the WWE, I recommend that you only watch the pay-per-views because they almost always are good. Like the matches, you can always rely on the talent to deliver. And when they have some batshit crazy ideas, I mean, at the very least, the hope is that you might be entertained. And I was thoroughly entertained by this show. So thumbs up show for me.
When is a safe time that you can resurrect Bray Wyatt? Like how long until you can bring him back?
Well, he's never no one knows whether or not he's actually alive or dead anyway, right? So he'll probably be
Tomorrow?
back tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. TLC is in the bag, but we will be opening up the phone lines if anyone wants to share their thoughts, and we'll also be going to the forum where people have left feedback, and we can go to the poll as well. Way, I feel this one will do fairly well. I'm going to predict between a 6 and a 7. That's my prediction. A 5.67.
5.67. Okay, right below what you thought. So, open up the phone lines right now. A lot of people want to get in on this. Let's go first to Dez. Dez, welcome to the show. Please unmute yourself. What's going on?
What's going on, guys? I never get to call in anymore, so
nice to hear from you.
Yeah, I thought I'd call in one time before the end of the year and just wish all my fellow postmarks a really happy holidays and hopefully a much better 2021 than 2020. Let's just go with that. But
thank you very much, Des.
I wanted to just kind of say, for a company that is so hell-bent on telling stories and supposedly these groundbreaking stories, they really are squandering what I think is their most important, or one of their key storytelling devices in the Money in the Bank. I mean, geez, how long has it been now since we've had somebody hold the Money in the Bank and something of consequence happen? This year you didn't have much happen with the women's one, out of necessity with Becky Lynch. But for the male one, I can't think of the last time that something significant ended up coming of the winner of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And I mean, the example that John brought up earlier, that Nate shared about, I already forgot who it was for, but
Big E.
Big E. Yeah, that's right. Giving Big E and giving him all these new layers of story that you could tell just because he has the briefcase. And I'm getting none of that. And it seems like the easiest thing you could use to be able to tell a good story. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts out about that. And thank you guys so much for everything you guys do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Des.
I think it's still a very strong concept. It just depends on who you give it to. At this point, I wonder if it would be beneficial for the longevity of the gimmick itself to maybe alternate years between men's and women's Money in the Banks.
Yeah, I think they're so tied into these shows that it's always going to be the twos that they're going to do and continue forward. Which I don't think you can. It has to be a negative that there's two of them. It just seems...
they always have them cash in one rather quickly anyway. This was the case when they had Raw and SmackDown championship or Money in the Banks. They never wanted to have two circulating at any one time anyway. I say you just eliminate one of them, to make it more special. But
one note here, I got the Inferno match. It was recorded in the afternoon today.
Yeah, I expected it would be kind of tough to flip that burnt body live.
Yeah, maybe they had to, it's hot off the presses.
Hey,
all right,
let's go to Hansi up next. Hansi, what do you think of Money in the Bank?
No, listen, man, I thought that I wasn't really too excited other than 2 matches, but I thought the whole card delivered, man. I thought Carmella and Sasha kind of killed it. I'm kind of glad that the thing about Sasha's title reigns is that now, because I'm always worried that they're gonna always make her lose it, so I'm always on the edge of my seat for her matches. For some, I don't know if that's a good thing in the sense that it's long-term building, or it's my lack of faith in WWE. But as a Miz fan, I'm kind of disappointed that Miz didn't win, but I understand that. What's it called? But the KO match in Roman Reigns, that was probably one of the best matches. I don't know. I know it's kind of hyperbolic, but I would say that one of my favorite matches of the year. That match was awesome, and I know a lot of people didn't like the Inferno match, but I gotta say that Inferno matches normally, they aren't the greatest and all that. But like the thing is like with no fans, I liked how they could be able to pull off this visual of like it being all around the arena, and it just looked like a cool visual. You know what I mean? Like that visual of Orton RKOing Fiend on fire is like gonna be like etched in stone for like
That should be the opening signature.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But no, overall, man,
I never want to see another like in-person Inferno match. I think all Inferno matches should be pre-taped, like cinematic style, so you could do crazy shit like this.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too. Yeah, they should always be cinematic style because the other ones are always like I mean, I understand why they have to limit it in when like the crowd is always there, but I never really got into it. I think the last one I liked was probably MVP and Kane because I always assumed that Kane was gonna be the one that gets burnt, but MVP was the one that got burnt in the 2006. I think that was the last one they actually had actually. But
what part of his body got burnt?
Bray and Kane did one like right at the beginning of the Bray character, and it was listen, the Inferno matches. I don't know if you were ever going to get a playlist of all the Inferno matches. They're pretty brutal, but yeah. What would they call that? The Ring of Fire match.
Yeah. Before I go, do you guys think that like this ending, like, do you think because like with the rumor of like, USA wanting more of an adult show, do you think that this kind of prompted like this kind of this kind of result, like going balls to the wall like that? And I'll leave you guys with that if that's cool.
I think this was just their idea from. I mean, Monday they did a similar angle, so I think it was like you had to do. I mean, they've done crazy shit with Bray from the get-go, like that. This has been the guy drowned earlier this year with Braun. He's done all this crazy shit. Like this is consistent with the character. Like we should have expected. Like they couldn't just do a small little. Yeah, like his foot's on fire. Like this is kind of what you would expect. Like I didn't think it was that shocking of an ending that they went with. It was kind of par for the course for a Bray Wyatt big stipulation match.
No, but did you expect like him to be literally on fire while getting an RKO? Like, did you guys expect that at all whatsoever?
I didn't. I expected, like any other Inferno match, like a one body part. By the way, MVP's body part that was lit on fire was his ass. He had his ass lit on fire in that match.
All right, well, take it easy, guys.
Thank you, Hansi.
Thanks, Hansi. Let's go to the forum, John.
Okay, let's start off with Kenny. I don't watch Raw or SmackDown regularly. Always a good start. But I thought the show tonight was pretty fun. There was nothing really bad on the show, and I thought both TLC matches were entertaining. As for the main event, believe it or not, this match was much better than I expected it to be. This may have been the best Fiend match so far. Do you guys think the Fiend is dead now, or will he pop up next week like nothing happened? Yeah, I don't think this was the writing off of the Fiend character. I would venture to guess that this is not the last we've seen of the man.
I would say so too, but I hope we don't see him at least for... Listen, the character is best when we don't see him that often. Like,
oh my God.
What?
You know what this leads into?
What?
Let's go back to the highlight video. We've got Arcade Fire followed by Alexa on fire. That's got to be the follow-up here. Randy Orton's coming for Alexa.
Look at you, John, working your 2000s indie Canadian rock knowledge.
This is where I get my my enjoyment out of these things. But maybe Alexa's back tomorrow night. That would make sense if Bray is gone for at least a week. That you have Alexa. They should actually promote tomorrow, like the Fiend, something involving this, like some ceremony with the Fiend where Alexa is doing whatever. Like they'll just go crazy with this.
We got a Brian from New York who says, new topic for best and worst of shows. Best murder of 2020.
Oh.
AJ Styles buried alive. Rey Mysterio thrown off a building.
That was fun.
Braun Strowman drowning.
Was it Braun that drowned or was it the Fiend? I can't remember.
Might have been the Fiend, actually.
Okay. But we know what he's talking about.
Well, and the Fiend's had quite the 2020. He was also burnt to a crisp, of course, tonight. So
I'm going to predict this would be Wai's rankings. Number 1 would be tonight. Number 2, I think you'd go with.
I would throw Rey Mysterio's eye getting poked out of there as well. I mean, he didn't die, but still a pretty gruesome injury.
Die or I, whichever.
Okay. I mean, I felt more pain coming from his eye falling out than him being thrown off a building. So I would go, sure, Fiend being burnt, Rey Mysterio's eye coming out.
I guess Johnny Bravo was only attempted murder. He made it his way through, so he wouldn't be nominated. I'm surprised there's only 4 nominees here. I feel like we've had more death this year than just these 4.
Well, the year's not over yet. He says, he says, in all seriousness, considering the circumstances and the emptied arenas, it felt like WWE pay-per-views over-exceeded expectations more often than not, and it feels like we're leaving 2020 with 2 of the stronger world champions they've had in a while after 2 enjoyable TLC matches. So if nothing else, that's something to build off of.
We talked about Reigns, and there's so many options on SmackDown. How about with Drew McIntyre? Because I do not see the same on Raw where AJ... I mean, this time of the year, you can always squeeze out rematches and you could do something on TV, but as Drew's next focused program, like let's say going into Rumble, for instance, that becomes a more interesting one because I don't think there's the long list of heels that are ready on Raw.
Yeah, I think the Rumble is one where his opponent doesn't need to be that, like, you know, grand, because the Rumble itself is enough. So, you know, part of me thinks that The Miz will somehow still be involved in all of this. God. I don't know if he does a 3-way with AJ again, maybe even a 4-way somehow with John Morrison. Doesn't really sound all that attractive, but
no.
Keith Lee's certainly not there. Sheamus, of course. Sheamus.
Yeah, you're right. Sheamus would be the one because Randy's been done to death. Sheamus would be the best option, I think. And you have like 5 weeks that would be the direction. That'd be a good Rumble match.
Yeah, it'll
good
be
Rumble transitional program for Drew. Jesse from Montreal. I enjoyed the show apart from the main event. I think WWE pay-per-views are probably more enjoyable if you don't watch the weekly TV. I watched most of the show in French. The Owens-Reigns match was interesting. The commentator was bringing up Owens like Vince McMahon calling a Shawn Michaels match in 95-96. At the match's climax, when Owens was reaching for the title, he said Owens is doing it for Canada, for Quebec. It would be impossible to be a Quebecois wrestling fan and not see Owens as a major star with commentary like that.
That's great. I wish I understood French so I can listen to that. I'm sure that would add a whole lot. Like, imagine having Canadian only commentary in English.
Yeah. I mean, it's just get a bunch of biased commentary. Sure.
Love it. All right, we go to Chris, who says, I only had TLC on as background noise, but it seemed like a pretty decent show. Finally sat down in full attention for the Firefly Inferno match. Thought to myself, this is ridiculous. Then I saw an RKO delivered to a flaming man. Maybe murder is exactly what WWE needed, because I loved it.
We go to Kate from Montreal. I feel like there were some good matches tonight, particularly Roman and Owens. It's not easy to be the hardest thing to watch on a show where a guy literally gets set on fire, but their bout was brutal. On the other hand, I'm not left with any sense of excitement of what comes next. For certain, though, The Fiend is dead. I don't mean WWE dead, where someone gets buried alive or electrocuted or drowned and then shows up the next week like nothing happened. I mean that the character is dead. There's no way that's anything more than a joke at this point. It seems like a waste of a cool idea, which is exactly what I thought about the old Bray Wyatt character.
Yeah, I mean, is it a joke any more than I suppose it was before? Like, to me, it's always been a character based completely around theatrics, you know, from the way it enters the arena to just, like, the spectacle of the theatrics are what somebody might want to watch for on a pay-per-view, for instance. So I think this just continues to bolster that aspect of the character. You know, next time they promote Bray Wyatt in some sort of crazy unknown match type, you have an expectation level of something really crazy, maybe laughable, but, like, at the very least, is it entertaining?
Do you think Randy Orton is better off after this program, same, or hurt?
I think he's largely the same. Listen, he's gonna, like, feud again with Edge. They're gonna cut some amazing promos, and Randy Orton will be back right to the Randy Orton that I think we all really enjoyed, you know, about 6 months ago. Like, he's pretty up there at this point. I don't think it really hurts him. Do you?
I think it's like, I don't think it's helped him, but I also think that you're right, that this is just going to be, he's the sadistic villain that lit a man on fire.
The feud must continue too, right?
I think so too. Like, there's nothing on the horizon for Randy now that this has to continue. Like, Randy maybe goes for a few weeks and then he's haunted by the Fiend, who's going to come back, and God knows what they'll do at maybe the Rumble. Like, who knows? You're right. Like, it has to continue with these two. And I wouldn't want to keep Randy. Like, that's always the tricky part, is someone attached to the Fiend, that it's all this out there stuff. But I mean, Randy is also kind of at a level where it's, your promos will get you through quite a lot.
We got Alex from Portland, who says Money in the Bank this year was won by Asuka and Otis. Asuka tonight became Asuka 2 belts, and it was great. Otis lost Money in the Bank to Miz, who failed his cash in tonight. WWE's handling of the men's Money in the Bank this year is a travesty. Oppositely, the booking of the Hurt Business has been fire. Earlier this year, MVP was just supposed to be a one-off at the Royal Rumble, and now he's managing a stable with the U.S. and Tag Team Champions. Baller. Randy Orton, the Arsonist, is a fun gimmick. 6 out of 10. Question, with Charlotte being a women's tag champion, how soon until she's on all 3 shows again? Charlotte and Asuka seems like too strong of a tag team for anyone else on Raw, but they could get some great competition from NXT.
They're not mixing rosters right now. Like, I don't see, at least for the time being, main roster talent going down to NXT. If Asuka and Charlotte were like going back and forth, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for those tag titles. And I don't really have a big issue with that, because they'll probably have some great matches. But yeah, that's always been the rule they've had with the tag titles, is that they can go back and forth. Although, with Baszler and Shayna, Baszler and Jax, they just stayed put on Raw.
It's I really, it's hard for me to picture like who they would feud against, even on SmackDown, because you don't really have exactly.
It's just the Riot Squad.
Yeah, who are the tag teams? Period. Much less like who are the heel tag teams. For them
well, the big Peyton Royce, Lacey Evans program can be. Are they on Raw?
They're on Raw. Yes.
Oh, okay. Charlotte's technically on Raw.
Yeah, even though Billie Kay was on SmackDown, she did campaign to be Asuka's partner tonight.
I'm sure that was just an oversight. Last one here is from Muggin. Has a few observations of TLC, calling it a mixed bag. Called Drew and AJ a strong opener. The insertion of The Miz midway through heightened the drama, and Drew's selling was superb. The Money in the Bank needs to be put on ice for a while, because it did not help Miz one iota. Sasha and Carmella was a good match with the right outcome. Carmella, despite this derivative persona, put on her best effort to date. It helps being in the same ring as Sasha. The Hurt Business are dripping in gold, with Cedric Alexander being the difference maker by stealing the pin. Do we see a potential ousting down the road? Say what you will about Charlotte, her presence was sorely missed in the women's tag title match. Asuka caps off her stellar 2020 as a double champion. Reigns and Owens was easily the match of the night. Owens went out of his way to make Reigns the biggest heel on the planet, and Hope Spots had me on edge. What the hell was that Inferno match ending? There you have it. What a way to end the year for the WWE. Quite the show, quite the spectacle, and a man on fire. All the key points you want to hit on the checkbox of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, of course, certainly. So thank you everybody for your thoughts, as always. Thank you for everybody who tuned in live. We are live for all these pay-per-view post shows for Double, Ice Cap, and Espresso patrons. But we can also announce that we'll be announcing some changes to the Post Wrestling Cafe tiers coming up in the new year. So those announcements will be made on the Post Wrestling Christmas show, which is dropping on Christmas Eve in about 3 days, John.
Christmas Eve. It's on Thursday. So this week we've got Rewind to Raw Monday night. Way and I will be back for whatever the follow-up is to TLC. Tuesday, Rewind Away, the final Rewind Away of 2020. Eric Marcotte is going to join us for the whole show. We're going through UFC 165, an event I covered. Did you cover it too with me?
I'm pretty sure I was
at the building from Toronto. This was the famous first fight between John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson. A star-making fight for Alexander Gustafsson, even in defeat. So we'll chat about that card. Wednesday, we're going to do a real late-night edition of Rewind to Dynamite, because it's not going to be starting till after 10 p.m. after the NBA game. It's going to be a bit of a shortened version of Rewind to Dynamite. We're just going to quickly go through the show, but there will be a recap of that. And then the big one is the Christmas show that drops on Thursday. That one should be mammoth. And then next weekend, we will drop a Rewind to SmackDown. It's not going to be live on Christmas because we do have families. And we will drop that show sometime on Saturday. So you can look out for that if you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. And that is the week ahead.
Yeah, but until that time, if you want to interact with us, follow us on all of our social medias at Post Wrestling and join the Post Wrestling Discord. It's a chat room
it's just alive 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, you can leave a message for anybody there. You can find conversation about anything from wrestling to boxing to MMA to gaming, TV, movies. It's all there. So follow it. I believe you can go to postwrestling.com/discord. And if I don't have that set up, you just go to postwrestling.com/discord. You should get an invite and you can join and leave a message. I'll peruse it from time to time. So let us know what you thought about a man being lit on fire.
Ask Brandon how he's doing. He always wants to know. He always wants to hear from the people.
He's a moderator in the room.
How did that happen? Okay, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in live or downloading the show after the fact. We appreciate all of you. We're back Monday.